A lot of people want to know when will Bali, Phuket, and other tourist destinations in Southeast Asia reopen for visitors. With COVID-19 vaccines being rolled out globally, there was a lot of hope this would happen sooner rather than later. And indeed, both Bali and Phuket are slated to welcome visitors quarantine-free starting in July. However, many countries in Southeast Asia are also dealing with a third, fourth, or fifth wave of the coronavirus. The situation is fluid, and as always, you're going to want to make sure you check for the latest updates. With that in mind, let's take a look at when some of the most popular tourist destinations in Southeast Asia are tentatively planning to welcome tourists quarantine-free. As for Bali, the Indonesian government is scheduling a soft reopening for both Bali and Bintam in July. Tourists will be allowed to visit and stay in what the government is calling green zones. While plans are still being formulated, it does appear that movement is set to be restricted to these select areas on each island, at least for the first few months. Exactly who can travel to Bali may also be limited. The Tourism and Creative Economy Minister told local media that Indonesia was actually looking to form travel bubbles as opposed to welcoming any tourists who had received the COVID-19 vaccine. Obviously, none of these plans have been confirmed as of yet, but it does appear likely that Bali will have a smaller, softer reopening, at least in July and August, before maybe a more widespread reopening. Phuket remains on track to reopen to tourists quarantine-free starting on July 1st. Now, with Thailand experiencing a pretty significant third wave of the virus, it remains to be seen if these plans are going to go ahead as promised. The local government in Phuket continues to monitor the situation and has said on multiple occasions that it will make a decision on if these reopening plans can continue on. There's a lot of hope that even with the third wave in Thailand, that Phuket will welcome those first tourists quarantine-free on July 1st. Elsewhere in Thailand, most places remain on track to open October 1st. This includes Bangkok, Hua Hin, Chiang Mai, and Samui. Now, of course, this also depends on the country's successful rollout of a COVID-19 vaccine countrywide, where there's some skepticism on if that can be done before this at least initial target date of October 1st for a countrywide reopening. A limited number of tourists are going to be welcomed to Samui in July as part of a pilot program that sees sort of a hybrid quarantine set up. Cebu is also really eager to welcome tourists back in some form, and that is why it has launched this pilot program. As mentioned, it'll be 1,000 visitors at first, but if it is successful, there are calls to expand it in both August and September before the full October 1st reopening. In the Philippines, Cebu has already welcomed tourists, but there is a caveat there. Anyone traveling to this region is first limited to several areas around the island, such as Lapu-Lapu. And then the second one is that if you're a foreign tourist, you must currently have a valid visa to enter the Philippines. If you want to travel visa-free, or you apply for a visa or tourist visa at the moment, you will be rejected. As for the Cebu tourist plan, currently, those who do visit the region are required to be fully vaccinated and will need to have tested negative for COVID-19 within 72 hours prior to their arrival. As I mentioned, overseas arrivals also require a valid visa, and they'll need pre-booked accommodation for at least 7 nights in an accredited hotel. It must be stressed once again that if you do not have a valid visa to travel to the Philippines, do not travel to Cebu because they will not accept any non-visa holders. As for the rest of the Philippines, there isn't a lot of clarity on when places like Boracay and Puerto Princesa will reopen to overseas arrivals. The government has made no formal announcements on when a quarantine-free reopening will take place, although it is really eager for that to happen. This is a situation too, if you do want to travel, make sure you keep an eye out for updates. Malaysia had been gearing up plans to create a regional travel bubble with Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand, although those have been shelved indefinitely after the country recently entered another nationwide lockdown. Whenever Malaysia does open for tourists, it does look like the government there is hoping to do it in a staged approach, which will start with a regional travel bubble and then expanding upwards from there. So before you buy that plane ticket, before you book that hotel, again, check to see what the latest developments are in each country. For Dot Property, I'm Cheyenne Hollis.